Hi, everyone.
Hi everyone, welcome to another book talk for the Latinx and Kid Lit book blog. I am Dora Guzman, one of the contributors for the blog, and I'm here again with.
I'm Sonia Alejandra Rodriguez, and I'm also a contributor to the Latinx and Kid Lit blog.
And today we're talking about Sing With Me, the story of Selena Quintanilla, written by Diana Lopez and illustrated by Teresa Martinez. I am so excited to talk about one of my childhood idols, and it's in a picture book. So basically, it's a story. It comes in English and Spanish. So Sonia, you have the Spanish version, and it is about Selena's life in a picture book format, right? We talk about how she followed her love of singing with her family. They also talk about her creative side and just, a lot of things that came up throughout her life. So if you follow Selena for, a while or watched any of her movies, it's very similar, but it's in a picture book format. So I'm really excited. What was your favorite part, Sonia?
I've read pretty much all of the Selena books that are out there. Huge Selena fan. I'm so glad to see that there's another book that just came out about her life. I like that it focused on her as a child. It really is. It was like the preteens for the most part, that the story covers those preteens, getting started, how difficult it was to break into the Hano music as a woman, her love for fashion, music, family, and then it kind of speeds up through the rest of her life at the end. But I really liked seeing her as a little girl. Well, the illustration, her as a little girl. I was like, oh.
Yeah. I like that part too, where, again, it's a picture book, so it's geared for, a younger audience. But again, we reviewed a lot of books that could be for, wide range of audience members. And I do like that perspective. And also just, it really just talks about her, right? The central of, her singing, her dedication to singing, even as a child, right? Like you said, a lot of the movies, they flash forward to her being a teenager, her being in her career, and kind of like the trajectory of her career. But just like you said, it's mostly like her growing up as a child. So I really do appreciate that, especially, if a child is reading this.
Yeah, and I also learned a few things that I didn't know. And I call myself a fan, or not, I'm a fan of of her and her life, her songs. But just things that I didn't know she had recorded her first studio recording at the age of 12. Right, that seems pretty young, but I'm sure that's maybe a basic fact for others that are not fans. But I was just kind of surprised to learn at how young, right? She had decided that this is what I want to do with my life. I want to sing, and how quick her family was to support her, and how that support it became a family endeavor, right? And Diana Lopez talks about at the end, at the author note, about how some of the moments she had to imagine what they would look like, right? So they were fictionalized, some of the family encounters, because I think what is important about this one is about this story in particular is that it highlights that Selena doesn't speak Spanish, right?
Yes.
And so there's quite a few pages, right, or spreads that focus on her really wanting to learn Spanish because she wants to sing the songs that her audience is asking for, right, and their songs in Spanish. And so the author's note at the end says, from Diana Lopez, says that she had to kind of fictionalize or imagine what these conversations would look like between Selena and her family about the lack of Spanish, right? Why didn't they pass it on to me? Why am I not able to speak it? What was that like? So I appreciate that. And I think a lot of children are going to be able to resonate with that as well.
That was one of my favorite parts, and I feel like it's connected with a lot of my students, especially my second generation students. I work with younger bilingual students who are not only in bilingual programs, but also not in bilingual programs, and I see that. I see that question, right? It's so tied to identity. Language is so tied to identity. And the teachers that I work with, they know, they're like, oh, can you talk to so and so because they're having a life moment where they're wondering why they don't speak Spanish, and that part really So I'm like the go-to. I mean, I don't know why, but you know, it is what it is. But that part really, I really connected with that part just because it talks about her. You see it as she's older, right? How she wanted to learn more Spanish to connect with her community. But seeing it from a child's perspective, and then seeing that she was practicing her songs in Spanish, right? Even as a child, I don't know, that was just so powerful. That was just a powerful moment that as a child, she had so much awareness and she knew that, you know, she valued Spanish and she saw it, right, as another part of her being connected to herself, right, her growing identity as a Latina, and then also as part of, you know, the community.
Yeah, that moment when Selena's asking her dad, why didn't you teach me Spanish? Right, and that's the moment that Diana Lopez says in her author note that she had to imagine the dad in the book, spoiler alert, right, says that because in his generation, speaking Spanish was punished, right? And that it was stigmatized, there were consequences, they were racialized because of it, right? They don't say racialized in the book, but like that history, right? It touches on that history of being racialized and then criminalized, right, for speaking Spanish, right? And that English, right, was the language of success, and that he wanted his children to learn English. And so many like Mexican American families, households, or even just like broadly like Latin American or just other immigrant groups can identify to that, like needing to prioritize English in order as a language of success in the U.S. Right, and that feels real, and that's still true till today, right? Unfortunately, that like language discrimination is still an issue our children deal with.
Right, and it's a part of our Latinx history, like you said, and it's part of our stories, right? Our Latinx community has multiple stories, right? Multiple experiences. There's not one Latinx experience, and language is very near and dear, right, to the Latinx culture. And you know, I don't know about yourself, but like I grew up with friends too that their parents had similar stories to the story that, you know, was part of Selena's life story, that it was just not in schools, right? And they were shamed for it. It was stigmatized. And you hear snippets of stories where it becomes almost like a joke that, oh, you know, why didn't you learn Spanish, right? And you're Latinx, et cetera, but we really miss a lot of those stories, right, that have been erased throughout, again, because of policies, because of just various happenings in the country and outside of this country as well, but mainly here. And I love hearing that perspective, right? That it was like we didn't choose not to, right? It was just the environment we were in. And she still created change from that.
Yeah, so I like that representation that Teresa Martinez did. And so the spread, hopefully you can see it, the spread that I'm showing is Selena in their tour bus. I think it's called Big Bertha, the Big Bertha tour bus. And so she's teaching herself Spanish, right? She's practicing. She's listening, I think, to like audio tapes, and she's taking notes. And so what I like about this illustration, and I'm just gonna keep showing it, right, is that like Teresa Martinez like has like the Spanish words kind of just floating around her, right? Like all these like different representations of like what Selena is trying to do in that moment, as she's like as a child, right? Like this is important to me. I want to sing in Spanish. I want to sing for the audiences that are asking me for these songs in Spanish, and I want to do that. And I like the way that it's represented. It's like this little girl, and the words are like floating around her, right? Very magical, very like warm, like a fairy tale kind of thing, like fairyland, like it kind of feels like with a glow. And so I like the way that that's represented. It's very sweet.
Yes, yes. And also in the front and the back covers, there's also like her lyrics, right? You have lyrics of her song.
Yeah.
it was hard for me not to like go on look for these songs and play them in the background. But and then the Spanish version has them in Spanish, and then the English version has them. You know, they have them in Spanish. This is the English version, and her lyrics are in Spanish, right? Because a lot of her songs were in Spanish, and then she had her last English album. See, fun fact. We should do like a trivia.
I know. Yeah, we do like trivia night, Selena. Let's do it.
But another illustration that was one of my favorites was just also the use of color. So Teresa Martinez did a phenomenal job with the use of color. There's multiple moments in the story where she uses this yellow, again, glowy feel to when Selena is either singing or in a moment. So like you mentioned, even in your picture, right, there's a different glow around her, right? Really emphasizing who she was as a person. I love the details. Again, if you remember cassette tapes, you know, I'm not sure for range of audience, but then her album covers as well. You know, just they're looking at her in awe. And again, it's because, you know, she was so young and she had this amazing voice. But just the use of color that Teresa Martinez used as part of the story was very well laid out. There's a lot of movement, right? Again, throughout the images, whether that's, you know, the dancing, the song lyrics. If you know that iconic scene as well when she's performing at the, I think it's the Superdome. Is it?
I think so. I was just looking for that as well.
When she's talking about the that iconic moment when she's riding the carriage.
We're gonna get corrected real quick in the comments. We gotta say it. It's the Astrodome in Houston.
Oh,
we were close, but we checked it.
It's a dome. Thank you. But the symbolism of the white flowers is represented in a lot of her stories throughout, you know, through a lot of her stories and videos. But just again, that use of color is very purposeful and really centers Selena in her true moments, right? Whether that's with her family, whether that's her pursuing her creative side, her learning another language, just her growing into who she was. You feel that warmth not only through her story, but also through the use of colors. I really like that part as well.
Yeah, I like the combination of the story, right? Diana Lopez's story and Teresa Martinez's illustration. It does feel very nostalgic, and it's probably just due to my age, right? And my having grown up with Selena, but it does feel like very romantic, nostalgic. This is like a very sweet and tender story of this child, this young girl wants to be a singer, right? And she's working hard for her goal, right? And you can see again like her family mobilizing. She's in a band with her family, her parents like managing, giving up like their savings to make sure that they go on tour. And this is very like wholesome story of this young girl with a dream and what that can lead to, right? Of like pursuing your dream, right? She won all these awards and she continues to be an icon today.
Yeah, I love this story, but I love, you know, I love everything. Like you said, any story about Selena, I'm there for it. But I love that it's in a picture book format, right? It's a biography. It's there for future generations to learn about her and to continue learning about her, and just appreciating, right, the artwork also that tells her story.
Yeah, and Diana Lopez provides more like biographical information about Selena. I think even the story talks about, just quickly, it goes through that she does get married. I think that's one of the things that's touched on in the actual narration. But Diana Lopez does provide more bio info on Selena. So if you don't know who Selena is, probably start with the bio, maybe before sharing it with a child, because the way Selena's life ends, it's not cute. But yeah, she continues to be an icon, and I think it's great to have just another amazing book about Selena Quintanilla. Selena Quintanilla Perez, is that her full name?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Dora, for talking to me about Sing With Me. which is a phrase that again, Selena coins in this story to talk to her audience. But yeah, thanks for chatting. Bye, everyone.
See everyone next time.